What's up, guys? Edrone here, and today we're going to be going over some tools and some tips to capture your drone footage safely. Stay tuned. This is the AirMap app. This is a tool we're going to be using today. I'm using the DJI Mavic Air drone, and the purpose of today's flight is to get some shots, some pictures, and a little bit of video to use in my upcoming portfolio that I'm going to be making after I get my Part 107. So I've got permission from the builder to come out here and get some shots, get some pictures that we're going to use to build my portfolio. Now, this is a fly for fun mission. This is not a 107 flight. So the AirMap has a lot of useful information. You're going to simply choose what you're flying for. Are you flying for fun, or are you flying for your Part 107? And it's going to give you a list of all the rules and regulations. Now, the good thing about this app is it has up-to-date real-time notifications as far as your warnings and your air restrictions. This is a really useful tool that you can take with you on the go, and it's really extremely helpful. All you got to do is get it set up. You're going to put in your username, and you can link it either with your Google, or you can just create a whole new account. But it's very easy to use, very simple to use. And it's going to give you a target zone of where you're flying, and they're going to ask the radius of your flight. So how far around the center of where you are, your subject, are you going to be flying? You have a 1,000-foot radius, which for me is plenty of space. And it's also going to give you the rules that you should go over. And it's going to show you all the FAA rules and all the required. So this is a really useful tool. Very easy to use, and it's easy to get your flight set up. And if you are trying to get some footage in a restricted area, in a class airspace, you can use this tool to request permission. For the most part, you should get it granted unless there's a really good reason why you can't fly your drone in that area of that time of the day and the height you require. Here you can set your duration. How long is your flight going to take? Which for me is going to be 45 minutes at most. And what's your highest altitude that you're planning on flying? You can go ahead and create the aircraft that you're going to be using in the tool. And for me, I'm using the DJI Mavic Air, and the manufacturer is DJI, of course. Go ahead and select that. It has a whole bunch of different models on here. And now that we have that set, you can see it's got my name, it's got my craft name, and it also asks you if you're interested in drone insurance from droneinsurance.com. Check that out if you are. For this particular flight, I'm not interested in the insurance. And it's going to ask you what the weight of the drone is, and make sure that you're registered if you're over 0.55 pounds, which I am. And it's going to ask you if this flight occurs over people. And today, no, there's no people around. Where I'm going to be flying this particular drone, there's no people, so the answer is no. And you're going to ask if the flight is going to be going beyond visual line of sight, and it's not. It also gives you a very good weather forecast of the current conditions, temperature, dew point, visibility, wind, and the time of day, which is all good information to have. Now you see in the blue, our time has started ticking, so it's giving us our flight time. In the right-hand side, you'll see a green little exclamation point. And if you click on that, it will actually tell you if there's any advisories for the area, for the day, anything like that. So that's good to know. Here you see they have rules you can review and rules you are viewing. When you've done your flight, you go ahead and hit the end flight button, and you're all done. It's as simple as that. Same thing for requesting to fly in different airspaces as well. Okay, we've got our flight set up in the AirMap app, and now we are on board the DJI Mavic Air, and this is in the DJI Go 4 app. Now, we're getting ready to take off, and we've already done our compass calibration. Everything looks good there. Our battery life looks great. We've got our exposure set to a good exposure level. I'm not using ND filters for this particular flight, and I'm using precision takeoff, which will give it a much more accurate return to home. Now, this particular flight, you can see I've got 12 satellites, and what I like to do is have the drone hover for a little bit, and normally when the drone takes off, she will lock onto some more satellites. So here is the subject that we're going to be filming today. You can see this is a construction site right on the beach side. And what I'm trying to do is get some nice, slow, cinematic video flying over and through this particular structure. Now you see we have some metal structure here. Keep in mind that that's going to give you some signal bounce-offs, which you want to be careful. I've got all my obstacle avoidance sensors turned on, but don't rely on those. Don't rely on just your sensors. Make sure you maintain visual line of sight, or if you can't, have a spotter with you. In this particular mission, I've got my wife with me who is spotting the drone just to make sure that I don't get too close to anything. And for this particular flight, we're going to be trying to stay as close as we can to the actual property without going over property lines and other people's houses. So this is a good way to practice being a safe drone operator and not aggravating other people. But see, getting some different views and shots of this structure, and you can see how it looks. See how we have the framing done here. We're going to get up enough distance to where we can look down and get a nice shot of that in the video. Looks great. And you see, I'm trying to maintain that altitude. I'm not trying to go much higher than the 150 feet, which I requested in the app, where I said I was only going to go 150 feet, which I'm 1 foot over. But you can see all your movements when you're trying to get these shots, you want to make them nice and subtle. You want to make them nice and slow. You don't want to be real jerky with the drone. And you can change settings in the drone to make it more cinematic as far as your gimbal pitch speed and your controls. I like to have mine very docile. I like to be very slow and fluid movement, especially when capturing video. People don't want to see, really jerky, quick video. So, yeah, we're getting some front shots of the front now off the boardwalk side or the beach side. And even as I'm going down, I'm making sure I'm nice and slow and fluid. And always make sure that just know your surroundings. That's a good way to be safe, is to just know your surroundings. Make sure you know what's around the drone, what's behind the drone, what's beside the drone. You want to make all that, make sure you know what's going on, because the last thing you want is to crash your drone and cause property damage or injure somebody. Now you see we're kind of locked on a 16 satellites, so that's good. The drone's very stable. Now we're going to attempt to fly through the structure. And keep in mind, we have the obstacle avoidance turned on. I do not have APAS turned on. I found it better to actually have APAS turned off when you're trying to get shots like this, because it can be frustrating when the APAS decides it's not going to go above or below, it's going to just stop. So I just turn the obstacle avoidance on, APAS is turned off, and I fly through the structure safely without damaging the drone or property. Now, when I spin around like this, that's all stuff you can cut out. So if you have any yaw spins that are real sudden, you want to make sure you cut that out of your video because it just doesn't look good. I'm shooting this with no ND filter because I feel like for this particular picture, I want to capture and video, I want to capture as much detail of the structure as possible. This is not meant to look cinematic or have motion blur. This is meant to have that detail. So I want my portfolio to have a little bit of both. I'm going to have some cinematic video in there, as well as some nice detailed, clear picture. Now, I've switched over to camera taking pictures now, and you see the exposure is overexposed. Down on the bottom, you see I'm overexposed 1.3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my shutter speed to where that is balanced right in the middle. And look how much better that looks. It's not underexposed, it's not overexposed, it's just right. Now I can go ahead and take the pictures that I want. And it's good to periodically check that. I don't have any of my settings set to auto except for my white balance. My ISO is turned all the way down, as down as low as it'll go. Just make sure when you're getting these shots, especially if you get change direction from the sun, you just double check that that exposure. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. Just getting some pictures here, and I think it turned out great. Leave some comments down below if you have any questions or any feedback. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time, edrone out.